let's talk about Manchester United, Rory. Do you know what? It's funny because we were talking at the start of the show about the Spurs City game, and I was like ifs and muts and maybes, and Erik Ten Hag has a lot of them. In fairness to him, he's got some valid points. They did play really well against Bayern Munich, and they have had some good performances, and they just don't get it over the line, which isn't very Manchester United like.
No, but I think even the way that you phrase that is a very generous appraisal.
Maybe I'm glass half full.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are with regard to Manchester United. I feel like generally speaking,
I think in recent times they are getting a lot of stick.
They're getting a lot of stick because they're breaking records for conceding goals in a Champions League group.
Yeah, that's not good.
Like they're also breaking records for like the amount of times that they've been winning games in the Champions League and ultimately losing. Like they've scored 9 goals away from home in their 3 Champions League games. They've won none of those games. Look, scoring 3 goals away at the Allianz when you're playing Bayern Munich, I can see how you can lose that game. But you can't score 3 goals in Copenhagen and not win the game. You can't score 3 goals in Istanbul and not win the game. It's poor game management. It's poor tactical decisions. It's poor transfer strategy. You look at the players that he's signed. Look at the players that have been brought in by Erik Ten Hag. And you ask how they're doing, generally speaking. To a man, they're basically underperforming, aren't they? And at some point, he has to take responsibility for that.
But as I did say on my glass half full, they are only 6 points off the top of the Premier League right now. That's 2 games.
Yeah, I mean that is true, but by the same logic, you go 6 points the other way, and they're where round about 9th. So they're equidistant between top and West Ham.
Yeah.
So by that, do you see what I mean? Like by that sort of logic, they're
still above you.
They're certainly a better team than Chelsea. There's no 2 ways about that. But I do think that overall, Ten Hag is. Look, the recent record in the Premier League where they've been, you had that moment where they stole those 3 points against Brentford. You know, when Scott McTominay scored 2 goals after the 90th minute. I feel like that's papering over the cracks. They're going out of the Champions League.
And the Fulham game was very close.
The Fulham
as well.
game was incredibly close. They've been very lucky in the Premier League, and I know that the Premier League generally doesn't lie. The league table doesn't lie. At least that's the old adage. But I think it doesn't necessarily tell the full truth. And Manchester United have some terrible fixtures coming up. If you look at who they're playing over the festive period, they have some really, really tough games. And I think then we will have a far better indication of how Erik Ten Hag is doing.
Oh, it's not nice. I just looked at them: Newcastle away, Chelsea at home, Bournemouth at home. Then it's Bayern Munich at home, Liverpool away, West Ham away, Villa at Old Trafford on Boxing Day.
I'd say by the time we get to it's a little while off now. It's about 6 weeks off. They play Tottenham at Old Trafford. By the time that fixture comes around, if Manchester United are still in and around the top 4, then fair play to Erik Ten Hag. But my prediction is they won't be, because everything that we know about Manchester United suggests that they will capitulate against the bigger teams when the fixtures are coming in. And look at how they've played in the Champions League. Like that group. You know, if you're in a group with Bayern Munich, okay, that's a number one seed. They're going to go through. But Manchester United are clearly the second best team there. Clearly. How can they possibly end up going out of a group that contains Copenhagen and Istanbul? Like going away to Galatasaray should not be a tough game. Galatasaray winning at Old Trafford, it's unheard of. They don't win away from home, Galatasaray, and they've scored 3 goals at Old Trafford. And yet somehow we're talking about their very impressive form in the Premier League or whatever, stealing results here, there and everywhere. I don't think they're playing very well. I think that they are ultimately in trouble. I think Ten Hag has some massive decisions to make, and number one of all of those decisions needs to be, they need to drop Andre Onana now.
Really?
They need to drop Andre Onana. Like, football's a meritocracy, isn't it? If you play well, you get a place in the team. If you play badly, you lose your place in the team. He has played incredibly badly. He is single-handedly responsible for Manchester United dropping out of the European Cup. Manchester United are no longer a European Cup team because of Andre Onana throwing the ball, launching the football into his own net time and time again in the Champions League. Like, that's why. If anybody asks why are they not in the Champions League, in January, why are they not in the Champions League? The answer is Andre Onana. Every single game, they've won one game in the Champions League. That is the game where Andre Onana played well and he saved the penalty. They beat Copenhagen at home. Yeah. He saved the penalty and they won the game. Every other game, he's launching the ball into his own net and they've lost. They're out. They're out because of him. How does that not justify having your place taken away from you? How does that not justify... Like playing for Manchester United is an honour, isn't it? Nobody has a God-given right to play there. Wearing that number 1 jersey for Manchester United, following in the footsteps of some of the best goalkeepers to have ever lived, having the Stretford end behind you, supporting you, it's an honour. You cannot play that badly, that often, and expect to keep your place in the team. So ultimately, I think that Ten Hag needs to drop him because I don't think it's giving out the right message to the rest of the team either. He can put in these performances constantly, not play up to standard, and yet keep his place in the team. It's ridiculous.
You think that they go towards well, he's currently their number one in terms of their actual number on the shirt, but he's their number two. Do you think they turn their attention towards him? Does it then? Is he proving everyone else right if he drops Onana? Because he's saying he's the second best goalkeeper in the Premier League by stats, but we are seeing something different with our eyes.
But the thing is, you can drop a keeper, but not necessarily drop them. You can rest him, and I think that he could do with being taken out of the limelight anyway. There is so much pressure on Andre Onana. Every time he's on the pitch, it's all eyes focused on him, all eyes on him. Every single time the ball goes near him. And I think that teams are adopting a shoot-on-sight policy with regard to Andre Onana. I'll tell you what, Chelsea are playing Manchester United fairly soon. My tactic, Chelsea aren't a particularly good team, but my tactic to any forward-thinking player there, if it opens up, hit it. Make sure it's on target and hope for the best after that. Because you may need a bit of luck with a shot, but chances are you'll get it if Andre Onana's in goal.
Do you know what's really cruel for keepers, though? We always forget about the great saves that they made. There were some great saves he made, like... I'm trying to think the start of the season. I think against Arsenal there was a magnificent save he pulled off, didn't he?
Yep, there was that. But for every one of those, I could always throw back at you. What about first day of the season when he should have given away a penalty in the last minute and he didn't? Yeah. There's always a comeback. And ultimately, look, Manchester United are going to have to give BeIN a chance because Andre Onana's going to go off to the AFCON. So when he goes to represent Cameroon, assuming that the relationship with the Cameroon manager sorts itself out, but it's looking like it will, if that happens and Andre Onana goes, I think he misses 4 league... If let's assume that Cameroon go all the way, he'll miss 4 league games, 2 cup games. They are going to have to live without him anyway. So the fact that it's going to happen, I don't understand why you don't just take the chance now, take the hit now, pull him out the firing line. People will say it's a risk. I'll tell you what, it's a risk to stick with Andre Onana. It's more of a risk to stick with him than it is give BeIN a debut in the Premier League.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.